a boxing betting expert.
I know, David.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
He really gets into the nitty-gritty of this whole thing.
Hi, Rick.
Hey, David, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for doing this. I know you've got a very busy schedule, so appreciate getting some time with you.
Likewise.
So, I've been following you on Twitter for a while. Always love interactions. I know you've got a hot view on most of the topics that come up, so looking forward to getting into this. And I know you're on a tight schedule, so we might fast track a few of the questions, but if we get into it straight away, what is your first boxing memory and how did you get into the sport?
First boxing memory, 1974. I was 4 years old, and my parents were big Muhammad Ali fans, and all the adults that were coming over were talking about Muhammad Ali and George Foreman and Kinshasa Zaire, and they had a poster.
Yeah.
So I probably saw fights before that, but that really got me into it. And then I started watching, Alexis Arguello and Ruben Oliveras and Sugar Ray Leonard and everything, the Fab Four. It really got me into it. And then when I was 9 years old, my parents bought us boxing gloves, and I do backyard boxing frequently. So that was basically the start.
So you remember the Rumble in the Jungle when you were 4?
Yeah. And
Amazing.
I started watching it. Every time it was on free TV, I'd watch it. I'm sure my parents had times where they were like, go outside and play. They didn't tell me there were any fights on, but whatever I could see, I watched.
Brilliant. And so the backyard boxing, headgear, mouthpieces, or just gloves and off you go?
Yeah. Off we went.
So
I did that until I was 24, and I hurt my rotator cuff.
Oh, right. Okay, so you boxed a bit, did you?
I wasn't trained, but as a pickup type backyard type of boxer, I was respectable.
Nice. What was your style?
Counterpuncher.
Okay. Kind of punch in the backyard.
Counterpuncher in the backyard, yeah.
Unique. Okay, so what? And you say your parents got you into was your dad a boxer?
No, they bought us gloves when we were little. They just wanted us to be able to defend ourselves because there was a lot of violence in the neighborhood, a lot of
right. Yeah. Where did you grow up?
Burlington, Vermont, the biggest city.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so what do you think? I know you've got you're a good judge of boxing as well, and you've got that some experience of taking some shots, throwing some shots. What do you think about people who say that you have to be an ex-boxer to have a strong opinion about the fights? Because I know a lot of people who have opinions on fights have never fought.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, and even some people that I have a lot of respect for that have boxed say that. But I don't know. I feel like I have a decent grasp on boxing, and I see other people inside boxing that do commentary the same thing. They can give pretty good opinions. Sometimes a fighter will pick up on things that like I might not pick up on, and I've noticed that. So it is what it is. You got to give them their credit, but I still don't think they're right 100% of the time. I think opinions are opinions, and everybody can have a good opinion.
I think that's right. And like you say, sometimes the hands-on experience will give an insight that you might not have thought about, but that doesn't mean that we don't have our own opinions that they haven't thought of. There's so many ways of sort of assessing the matchup that there's plenty of ways of getting it right, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay, so straight into it then. Who would you say is your favorite fighter since you've been following it for 40 odd years?
I have several. I think Roy Jones might be the most unbeatable during his peak.
Yeah.
And I say his peak was a 10-year stretch.
Yeah.
As a champion. So that's a long time. But, as a big Pernell Whitaker fan, I was a big Fab Four fan. Muhammad Ali, although I saw more of the tail end of him.
Yeah.
Foreman, Frazier, Holmes, all those guys.
Yeah. Right. So you remember those guys, so Foreman, I mean, that era, I don't remember. I've only been able to see it on replay, but you can remember seeing those guys live as they were happening.
Yeah. Foreman was just a wrecking machine.
Yeah. Foreman's a freak of nature because he looks kind of slow, but I wonder if he was just deceptive because the power he generates looks like it's otherworldly, given that he doesn't have that. He's sort of unique, I think. There's no one really like him.
No, it's absolutely deceptive because,
yeah,
I mean, he looks like an easy guy to beat, but
yeah,
you watch him destroy Joe Frazier, it's like, that's not easy to beat.
Yeah, I'd love to see some someone like him come along now and there's that classic footage of him on the heavy bag, like literally just leaving holes in this thing.
Yeah.
And Roy Jones is a brilliant one. He's an absolute favorite of mine. And so Roy Jones is the poster boy for going on too long. And how do you feel about legacies being tarnished if you go along beyond that peak?
I don't believe in that because Ezra Charles was like 96-25, and a lot of those losses came towards the end.
Right.
I think what you need to do is take a snapshot of the peak of fighters.
Yeah.
And who were they beating during that peak, and how consistent were they? And, what was their level of competition? And I get it with Jones. He didn't always fight the best guys, but when he did, he destroyed James Toney.
Yeah.
He destroyed Montel Griffin in the rematch. He destroyed Virgil Hill. Reggie Johnson gave everybody, including Steve Collins, hell. Roy Jones destroyed him.
Steve Collins, yeah. Steve Collins, he's not been mentioned yet. He's gone under the radar a bit, actually.
Steve Collins and Reggie Johnson are borderline Hall of Famers, in my opinion.
Right. Good shout. Yeah. Okay. So, do you have a favorite weight division to watch?
In history or now?
Yeah, now.
I like the little guys. I like Luis Collazo. I like Bam Rodriguez. I was a big Juan Francisco Estrada guy. Roman Gonzalez.
Yeah. Okay. And little bit of interference there. So, what about if you could change one? Are you getting that interference?
Say again.
Rick, technical issues over. So, scoring changes.
I believe in half-point rounds for very tight rounds, or a dominant round instead of a 10-8 if there's no knockdown, 10-8 and a half. I think that would satisfy a lot more fans with dominant fights or very close fights.
Yeah, it's something that everyone says. It's the scoring of the sport. And, with what they're doing in Saudi and making all these changes and taking over this, they need to trial something. Somebody mentioned the other day open scoring as well as like getting potentially, but there's too much controversy. There's too many decisions where it's almost half of decisions end up being controversial. It feels like
open scoring failed before.
Yeah, why was that?
When or why?
Why did it fail?
A lot of times, if a fighter was in control, they just kept it very dull, and boring, and fans lost interest.
But then isn't the onus on the fighter who's behind to force the action?
You would think so, but apparently
work.
They don't think that way.
So, okay. So in all your years following the sport, when do you think you've had a super hot take where you've picked a result that you just felt incredibly confident about?
I don't know. I've had many, but I think my best takes have been Joe Calzaghe beating Lacey. I couldn't see Lacey winning that fight in any shape, way, or form. And a funny one was Bernard Hopkins and Tito Trinidad. And the reason it was funny is I was at the Boxing Hall of Fame in June. Their fight was scheduled for September 11th. It got rescheduled because of the tragedy. But
yes, right. Yeah.
I was sitting at a banquet with Tito's people at the Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
And I think it was his bodyguard asked me what I thought of the fight. And I didn't give Tito a chance. So I wanted to be diplomatic. And I said, I think it's going to be his toughest fight. So it was.
What happened? I can't remember that one.
He got stopped, I believe, in the 12th round with a body shot.
Right.
But he pretty much got dominated.
Okay. Well, how far after 9/11 did they reschedule? I remember it was postponed because of that.
Yeah, I don't remember. It might have been a couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And what about when you've got it like horrifically wrong?
Razor Ruddock was going to destroy Lennox Lewis.
Nice.
Manny Pacquiao's life was in danger against Oscar De La Hoya.
Yeah. Well, the second, I thought that the second one as well. Oscar was done by then, wasn't he?
Yeah, another one that hurt me a lot because when you see your favorite fighter get beat up, you feel like a kid watching his best friend get his ass kicked, and you stand with. ice cream cone and you watch it hit the pavement and you just want to cry. You know? But Roman Gonzalez rung Vizai too. I thought Gonzalez was going to get revenge off the bullshit score of the first fight, and he just got destroyed. But I think he had other things going on because his trainer had just died.
Right. But I do feel that those. So it was sad to see Oscar go out like that. Roy Jones fighting too long. All these guys. Now, because we've seen it so many times over the years, it's so inevitable that when they go on too long, it's just kind of 1% of fighters gets out at the right time. We're so used to seeing them go on too long.
You know, a funny thing with the Roy Jones and Tarver for me is if you followed Roy Jones's career when he was a middleweight, super middleweight, he was a wrecking machine. And he backed off more, and it takes time. People are like, well, he didn't instantly lose or anything, but it takes time for your skills to erode if you change your style. And after Ben McClellan, he backed off on offense a lot. He became a lot more defensive. Plus, he was fighting more selectively who he was choosing as opponents. Yeah. So I think Tarver was very smart and very knowledgeable. So I think there was more to it than just dropping down from heavyweight, which also could have been a factor, obviously. But Roy wasn't as offensive, and Tarver was ready to take advantage of that, and he did. Yeah. Boy, did he. So
that's really interesting because that's a really interesting take because everyone puts it down to the weight gain and weight loss for the heavyweight campaign.
Which I'm sure has something to do with it, yes. But I used to worry about it, seeing Jones change his style. I'm like, he's not offensive. You train like you fight, and you fight like you train. So once you start backing off on what got you to the big dance and made you special, you're more at risk, you're more vulnerable. And if your timing slips and you don't have the reflexes used to and you get caught, everything changes, especially if you don't have an all-time great chin.
That's interesting. So it wasn't quite the sort of off the cliff decline that it feels like going from heavyweight glory to losing to Tarver. The writing was already on the wall.
That's my take.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so who do you think is the most overrated fighter, even active or historically?
Canelo,
do you? Right, yeah.
My reason for that is that junior middleweight, I had him even with Lara. At middleweight, he lost twice, in my opinion, to Triple G when it mattered. I knew he was going to beat Triple G when Triple G was 40, because I'm like, Triple G's 40, Canelo's in his prime. Now it won't even matter. Floyd embarrassed him. Bivol embarrassed him. But at the same time, I don't want to knock on him too much because at junior middleweight, he was tied for the best guy, Lara.
Yeah.
At middleweight, he was the number one contender to Triple G. So he carried his abilities with him. And at super middleweight, he was the man. So he actually won legitimately the title at super middleweight. And at light heavyweight, I'd say he was a top 3 or 4 guy in the division. So that's impressive. So giving him his credit, he didn't suck. That's not my point when I say he's the most overrated. I've never had him number 1 pound for pound, ever. Yeah. Right now, I have him outside of my top 10 pound for pound.
I mean, will you watch his fights? Yeah. So like, it's UD after UD after UD, and I'm like, I don't want. He's the face. I think he's still the face of boxing. He's probably number 1 globally, but I can't. The last fight I saw of his was the Bivol fight. Since then, I don't go out my way to watch him. And
I watch any fight I can watch, But and I'm a fan of Canelo. I don't dislike him, but I don't think he's all that like he's made out to be.
No, I agree. Okay. So who do you have number 1 on the planet right now?
3-way tie. I accept any answer. And I get the inactivity of Bud hurts him right now. But Bud, Inoue, and Usyk. And I've had Inoue up there for a very long time. Right. I've had him since December 2014.
Right. Wow. Okay. That's punchy. Yeah, no one's going to beat that. Okay. So we're a couple of weeks away. You mentioned Usyk. We're a couple of weeks away from the big one, Usyk Fury. Early thoughts on that one?
First fight, I thought there were close rounds, but I had Usyk by 5 points. And people were like, the fight was closer than that. I'm like, well, if you go back to my thing with half-point rounds, but I had him by 5 points.
Yeah, nice.
So this time, I don't know. I don't think he'll stop Fury, but I think he might win by 6 points. I think it'll be like a 9-3 type of fight.
Yeah. Okay. So you think the adjustments chat for Fury won't materialize? It will be same again, but more straightforward.
Yeah, I think Fury. You know what Marvin Hagler said before about hard to get up and train, living in silk pajamas. I think Fury is at that phase right now, and I think Usyk is peaking. Well, Usyk might start to go down too with his age, but he hasn't shown it yet.
Usyk's the older man, but he, for all intents and purposes, he seems the younger man. Fury seems to be like
you don't age. You don't age chronologically in boxing. You age by how things go.
Great point. Great point. You age by what you're doing outside the ring as well. And
you know what his best opponent would be, in my opinion?
AJ.
From cruiserweight, Opatea.
Who's best opponent?
Usyk. If Opatea
Yeah.
went up to heavyweight, I think that would be a hell of a fight.
Wow. Yeah, great. I mean, he's got plans to go up, hasn't he?
He does, but it's more like the old school days of when a light heavyweight would go up and fight a heavyweight champion, you know. But it's a little closer than that because there's not as much of a disparity either.
But then it's the age thing. Like Usyk's 38 in January. I firmly believe that you have to start declining, and you know the timing could be all wrong for that.
That's why I'd like to see it happen sooner than later.
Yeah. I wonder even if Usyk's got the sort of drive to take on sort of some young, hungry guy that he's 10 years older than, you know.
I don't think we're going to see a hot heavyweight until like Jalovov or somebody like that, or Atamu, you know, reaches the top.
Yeah, still 19. What about Dubois? How do you rate Dubois?
Dubois, he's a puncher. I don't think he's a great boxer. I think he gets a lot of applause. He might earn it and keep the earn, but you know, Bone Crusher Smith looked amazing when he knocked people out. And look how fit he was when he fought like Larry Holmes or he fought Frank Bruno, right? He was fit. You know, later on when he was getting knocked out by everybody, I don't know what happened, but he wasn't as fit. But I think Dubois is kind of like a younger, hungry Bone Crusher Smith.
Interesting. I'm gonna look that up tomorrow. Good shout. Okay. Who have you got number one all time at heavyweight?
Ali,
easy one. Yep.
And two, Joe Louis.
Joe Louis. Okay. So, do you find it hard to sort of like rate fighters when you have to sort of look up old, you know, black and white footage and stuff? Like a lot of people are big on Sugar Ray Robinson. I'm like, well, it's quite hard to sort of compare, you know, your super HD TV coverage with this grainy footage of the old time greats.
It gets harder the further back that you go, in my opinion, but I rate Sugar Ray and Harry Greb still. It's harder for me to rate Joe Jeanette, Sam Langford, McVeigh, Jack Johnson, even Jack Dempsey, because it was a segregated era and it was way, way back.
Yeah.
So I know they were great. And when I usually rate fighters, I don't have them on my list. Not because I don't think they were great, but I'm like, I don't know where to put them. I don't know what they would actually do against anybody.
Yeah. So what's interesting, you've just in the chat we've had so far, you've mentioned quite a few Brits: Steve Collins, Joe Calzaghe, Frank Bruno. Who have you got? Do you have a number one Brit fighter of all time?
Do the Welsh count too, or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd probably go Lennox Lewis, but I liked Freddie Welsh a lot. And who was his main opponent? He never won a title. Freddie Welsh. Freddie Welsh. He had an opponent who never won the title, but he was a hell of a fighter. I can't think of his
division.
name. And Welsh's division, lightweight, right?
Right. Yeah, don't know.
I'll have to look it up later, but there was a guy. He's among the great fighters that never won a title. I don't think he fought for a title.
Okay. Right. What year was that?
Welsh's era. What is that? 30s?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, you got me there. Don't know. So yeah, I mean, Lennox is obviously easy to put up there, but yeah, can't help you on that 1930s fella. Okay. What do you think is the most either sort of the most enjoyable upset or the biggest surprise you've seen in recent memory?
What constitutes recent memory?
Let's go back within 10 years.
Okay. Rung Vizai and Roman Gonzalez, number 2.
Yes, big price upset. When was that? 5 years ago?
Roughly.
Yeah, nice one. Okay. What about one where, you love the sport, but you've seen some sportsmanship that has just put you off a little bit, thought that's a little bit too much? Anything stands out?
Robert Allen and who was he sucker punched? Can't think of his name on top of my head. You know what I'm talking about?
After the decision?
Yeah. You Grant, right?
Oh, yeah. A while back, 15 years ago or so.
Yeah. It was
Terrible.
for a police cherry, and they started chanting, lock him up, lock him up.
Terrible. Worst thing I've ever seen. That was was he in prisons after that? It's the other guy's career was over, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, both of them were really
Terrible. Yeah.
James Butler, the Harlem Hammer. I can't even think of the other guy.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I know that one. Yeah, 15 years ago. Shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing but, I mean, the Tyson ear thing's up there, but kind of that there was kind of mitigating circumstances. Sucker punching that guy after the decision. Yeah, that was horrific.
I'm going to have to run real quick, but I want to hit a couple things I know we're going to talk about before I run away to get my daughter.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So I know you had questions on Mike Tyson, right?
I'll go.
Mike Tyson. So you asked where I rated him, right?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah,
so
go.
There's fighters that are special in their own little niche. Like I'd put Terry McGovern in there. I'd put Meldrick Taylor in there, Mike Tyson, Terry Norris, where when they were on, they could compete with anybody. So for Tyson, if you watch his form, his technique, his power between 86 and 89, I think he'd be competitive against any heavyweight in history. I think Ali always mind fucks him because Ali was Ali and that's what he did.
Yeah.
So basically Ali's going to just get in his head and destroy him. Mike never was mentally ready for a guy like Ali, but power, speed, he's a threat to my other big heavyweights like Larry Holmes, Joe Louis, Lennox Lewis, but it's hard to call. You know, those are all great fights in my opinion. Even Riddick Bowe, who should have done more with his career, could be hell on wheels. And even like a motivated Tim Witherspoon, which after he got fucked by Don King, he had a 10-year stretch in court with Don King, so it basically ruined him, you know, between that and the buffet table. But all those are great fights. But I'd say in his peak, and I think you disagree with me, but in his peak, I'd say he's a top 5. But in history, for his whole career, probably top 10 to 12. Yeah,
nice. But how would he get on with Evander Holyfield 5 years earlier, during that prime?
5 years earlier was around 1990, 91, right?
That's when they were originally going to fight, wasn't it? 90, I think 1990 they were originally going to fight. 91.
Yeah.
If that had been made around then, Tyson was probably on the slide.
Well, he'd have to reinvigorate and remotivate himself when he was closer to his peak at that time. And hopefully he would have been mentally, physically prepared to do that for a guy like Holyfield. So I think it could have been a great fight. But I think if it was a Tyson of, say, 88, 89, especially 88, against the best of Holyfield, I don't underrate Holyfield, so I think it's a hell of a fight.
Yeah, so Spinks, the 1988 version of Tyson against Spinks, against a prime Holyfield. And
I think I'd lean with Tyson.
Interesting. Yeah, I think most people do. I've got a certain respect for Holyfield, where I just kind of think the way they're however many 14 rounds they fought, I just think Holyfield just had his number in all of them. But obviously that was a way past his best Tyson. But
right.
Yeah. Which other ones did you want to get into?
Can you think of anything off the top of your head that you were going to ask me?
Sportsmanship. Then, any favorite quotes?
Bringing home the bacon.
Who's that?
You had to ask me. That came way back in like the 1920s, like the Depression era.
Right.
From one of the champions. I can't.
Nice. Didn't know that. I'm going to look that one up as well. Okay. And then, the final one would be the most exciting ring entrance, or when the referee's giving final instructions and you've got those 30 seconds before the first bell. What's the highlight, sort of best goosebump memory you've got recently?
Oh, recently?
I
was going to go with Hagler Hearns, but that's not recently.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Again, recently is 10 years, you're saying?
Yeah, why not?
Goosebump moments. I don't know. I don't get as many of those as I used to, I guess.
Yeah, that's a shame. You'll get it in 21st of December, surely.
Yeah.
Usyk Fury first fight was that for me. That was like being a kid again. All right, brilliant. Okay, so you've got far better things to be doing with your daughter now. So, Rick, what is your Twitter so people can follow you?
Say again.
What is your Twitter? What's your Twitter handle so people can follow you?
Just my name, Rick Gagne.
Brilliant. We'll put that in the comments, and we'll sort out those technical issues, get this all merged into one. But thanks a lot for your time. Great to talk to you.
You too, David. Thank you.
All right, Rick. Talk soon.
Peace out.
Cheers then. Bye.